Hi everyone, Amer back with another Mission Impossible video, continuing what I started about the mainline female agents. I started with a video which you can find. You probably, if you're here, you've probably already seen it, but in case you haven't, here's a link to it. Talking about the ladies who appeared multiple times as the female agent on the show. More than just kind of a one-shot deal as a guest agent. Now I'm kind of moving on to the two ladies that did last a full season, and in one case, a little bit more than one season, talking about Lesley Warren and Lynda George. The two of them, interestingly enough, are not so far apart in age. Lesley Warren was born in August of 1946, and Lynda George is not even 2 years older than her. She was born in December of 1944. And I find that kind of interesting because, as I'm going to discuss, the two ladies had very, very different experiences on the show and are remembered very, very differently. And most of that has to do, and this is just kind of the way the world is, especially in the entertainment business, based on their overall look. And Lesley, of course, has a look that is much younger, and Lynda looks more mature. That's just kind of how it is. But I just find it really, really interesting that, in terms of their age, they're just not really that far apart. So as part of my list of ranking the ladies in terms of their bodies of work on the show, I'm putting Lesley Warren right in the middle of the list of the 7 ladies who were in multiple episodes as the female agent. So she's number 4 on the list. She was in 23 episodes in all throughout season 5, she was it. And in looking back at these episodes, I did find some trends. I cannot find any episode in which she was bad. They gave her some very questionable fashion choices, and she had a bunch of episodes where she was pushed into placeholder duty so that another female guest star could be pushed to the fore and kind of, highlighted a little bit, spotlighted. And in a lot of episodes, and this is true of all of the ladies, in a lot of episodes, she's just there as kind of an above average placeholder, sometimes not even above average. She's just kind of there as one of the team. The reason Lesley Warren was enlisted for the show, this was the time when the 60s were turning into the 70s. And the producers were kind of wanting to go with the times. I've discussed that before. So it seems to me, as a logical, educated guess, that the producer says, well, why don't we kill 2 birds with 1 stone? We need a female agent and we need to try and change the vibe of the show. Okay, so let's get a young woman to become the female agent. Seems logical, and it's a good idea in theory. How it kind of worked out, well, that's what we're here to talk about. And in my conversation with Peter Lupus from a couple of months ago, I did ask him briefly about that, and he did comment that, yeah, Lesley Warren wasn't really the greatest fit for the show. Lynda George did fit in much better, and that's another thing that we'll talk about. There were a lot of other things happening at the time. Lesley Warren was in a relationship with a guy named John Peters. From reports, and this is just what you can read on the internet, you can draw your own conclusions about it. Obviously, I have no first-hand knowledge. But he had been painted as kind of like a Svengali-like figure. Been involved with lots of women in Hollywood, including Barbra Streisand, Pamela Anderson, Sharon Stone, whatever. It is what it is. And the overarching narrative is that he always kind of wanted to be in control of Lesley's career. I haven't really found any interviews or any information about Lesley Warren discussing this time in her life or her time on the show. I respect that. She doesn't want to talk about it. So, maybe there is some truth to the narrative. You can draw your own conclusions. Some other things, though, that are pretty clear that happened during this season. The other cast members, Peter Graves, Greg Morris, Peter Lupus, Leonard Nimoy, Obviously they kind of welcomed her in. By all accounts, she was absolutely professional. But given that they're obviously older and they're with this much younger woman, they didn't want to seem like they were creeping on her. That seems pretty obvious. So again, that kind of caused this whole, I think, vibe where, okay, well, let's be careful about how we interact with her. I think there was some of that, even if it was just kind of like an undercurrent or subconscious thing. And also during season 5, especially towards the end, it's clear that Leonard Nimoy had kind of mentally checked out of the show. He played out his contract, and he was professional, of course, and did his role and fulfilled his obligations. But the two of them, Nimoy and Lesley Warren, kind of started commiserating, and because misery loves company. And so they kind of talked about, their experiences and how maybe this isn't the greatest place for us, that sort of thing. So that kind of became a thing as the season wore on. And I've commented in a lot of the reviews about how they basically seemed to be put in a lot of scenes together, especially towards the end. And there was probably just kind of something to that. More than just, well, that's just how the plot is. I think a lot of that was kind of, by design. In looking back through the episodes of season 5, all 23 of them, it's very, very clear to me, as is the case with any actor or actress, what said actor or actress needs in order to shine is plots and roles that are suited to their strengths. I mentioned that the writers and producers obviously had, I'm sure, the best of intentions in trying to get Lesley Warren and put her into this cast and get her on the show. It didn't quite work out that way because the kinds of roles that she needed were to play to her look and to her age. She's a young, somewhat vulnerable looking woman, kind of like, a little thing, if you want to kind of put it that way. That's just kind of how she looks and how she comes across. So I feel that the onus was on the writers and producers to kind of play towards that. And that didn't happen a lot on this show, as you'll see. It doesn't necessarily mean that she always has to be like a damsel in distress or anything like that. But that didn't hurt either if the plot calls for it and if that makes sense. So as I mentioned, most of the episodes in season 5 basically have Lesley Warren's character, Dana Lambert, as a placeholder. But I think I can identify 10 episodes in which she is at least somewhat above average and not just that placeholder. So here we go. Starting with number 10, season 5, episode 20, Kitara. Dana gets a better than average role here as a reporter who's in a position to manipulate the IMF's target, due to the fact that Leonard Nimoy and Greg Morris have fairly limited roles in this one. So here, she gets to be more than just a placeholder and has a little bit of a featured role. Not much, but a little bit. Number 9, episode 18, Blast. Here, Dana gets to play the important role of the female agent being a woman for the episode's main target to play off of. Said target, Henry Darrow as Gregory Tolan, aka Jonathan Brace, he lacks some charisma in this one. And that would have made things better overall. In the way that he comes across really doesn't make Dana's role as effective as it could be, but that's certainly not Lesley Warren's fault. Number 8, episode 6, My Friend, My Enemy. Dana is mostly a placeholder here for most of the episode. She fills what would basically be the Willie role, of kind of being like a sidekick or an extra body. But she has an excellent sequence of work inside a foreign trade commission that is vital to the mission and finishing it off. And she pulls that off really, really well. Too bad the rest of this episode is rather forgettable. Episode 17, The Field. Here's one where in the apartment scene, Dana shows up as a hardcore looking beatnik. I have no idea where this wardrobe choice came from. She spends most of the episode as just part of the team, like in the previous one. But at the end, she has a fantastic scene with Paris to extricate him from police custody so that the mission can be completed. She and Nimoy do a great job in that scene, and everything just turns on a dime so well in that one. Really, really well done. Number 6, Episode 5, Flight. This is another episode which makes this list based on one scene, but what a scene. Lesley Warren holds her own with Lloyd Battista in a great scene, which at first seems rather over the top and hokey, especially on her part. But when you look at it carefully, it's actually much more nuanced and is really so important, again, to getting the mission accomplished. And Lesley Warren pulls it off really, really well. Number 5, Episode 1, The Killer. Dana is introduced as the new female agent here, having a great outing with Robert Conrad in one of the best MI plots ever. She's able to quickly show us that she's versatile enough to fill a lot of different kind of roles if the writers can put her in the right place. She does some Barbara Bain-esque duty in this one, kind of, being wherever she needs to be at different times. Number 4, Episode 2, Flipside. Again, Lesley Warren gets a featured role in this one. This is actually the first episode that was filmed for Season 5, but The Killer ended up being the one that launched this season. This one is good in that, as I mentioned from the outset, this fits the type of woman and actress that Lesley Warren is. It's the perfect role for her age and for her vibe. She's able to play well off the more experienced actors such as Robert Alda and Dana Elkar. Unfortunately, her fine performance in this one is a bit lost because of the anviliciousness of the episode. But again, totally not her fault. Number 3, Episode 9, The Amateur. Dana is really good in the featured role of this episode. She initially starts out being part of a love triangle with the episode's somewhat accidental target, Eric Schilling, played by Anthony Zerbe, and then has to become the main element in the trap for Eric, all under the watchful eye of Colonel Eckert, so that the mission can be completed. Finally, here we have a really good role for Lesley in a really good episode. Number 2, The Missile. While I'm somewhat torn about this episode because it's kind of got a main plot and a subplot, and the subplot is mostly a way to fill the hour, and there's a little bit of a little bit of disjoint and a little bit of mismatch there. However, Dana is the link between the two plots, and again, Lesley is really given a chance to shine in this one. That's mostly at the expense of the other agents, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. You can't have one agent featured unless the other ones kind of take a little bit of a backseat. And I think Lesley does a really fine job in this one. And again, it's due to the role and position that she's put in. She's a damsel in distress, yeah, but she's able to fill the role really well and make it believable. And number 1, Episode 14, Takeover. This isn't the best plot of Season 5 by a long shot, but it's maybe the best role for Lesley Warren overall. Again, I hate to keep repeating myself, but it fits her age and look perfectly. She gets to emote, she gets to really be active and show off her acting chops. And one thing I realized in thinking back on this one is that for many actresses of her age and look, the whole vibe of, the wayward chick from the wrong side of the tracks, it would seem very, very dissonant and out of place. But somehow Lesley Warren makes that character, Catherine Wilson, quite believable, including the scene with her would-be birth father, played by Lloyd Bachner, where she's able to convey a good deal of anguish, And that scene is really, really great. And that's why this is at the top for her. Okay, so let's move on to Lynda Day-George. Beginning with season 5, just to kind of segue here, and I've already commented about this, the show needed to move in a new direction with the turn of the decade. Beginning in season 5 with Lesley Warren, there was a move to more quote-unquote domestic issues. And I wasn't there, I wasn't even born, but it seems to me that this was because of changes going on in society at the time. And it appears, I'm surmising here, that people didn't seem so happy to just sit back and watch American good guys go after foreign bad guys, and politics being what they are, we don't have to delve into that sort of thing too much, right? But a lot of things were changing in the way, America was perceived around the world and things that were going on around the world. In season 6, the whole show pivots towards going after mobsters and the syndicate and the like. And hindsight shows us that that wasn't the greatest decision, but I understand it in light of the fact that had the writers not pivoted in some way, we would complain about that too, that scripts would seem to be recycled and stories would end up being recycled, and then we would be like, oh, well, they really should do something different. So, we can't have it both ways. They did something different and it wasn't the greatest choice, but had they not, it wouldn't have worked out terribly well either. Lynda Day-George came in after the end of season 5, after it became clear that Lesley Warren wasn't a great fit. That was a mutual decision. Leonard Nimoy left the show as well, of course. Now, it's something that I actually had to go back and look in the Mission Impossible dossier for, and I'll point this one out again. Fantastic book. If you have not already ordered it on Amazon, please go ahead and do that because it's a great book. I went back and read about this, and I missed this the first time, or the first few times that I had looked through this, that Lynda had been on a show called The Silent Force, which only lasted about 15 episodes. And it also starred 2 other guest stars who were on episodes of Mission. Ed Nelson, who was in the Western in season 7, and Percy Rodriguez, who's been in multiple episodes. This show, The Silent Force, it seems to me, I watched a little tidbit of it that I found online, and it seems to be the kind of show you would get if Mission Impossible and the Mod Squad had some kind of love child or something. So she being Lynda, was enlisted for Mission Impossible as the producers felt sensibly that she could fill the roles of both the female agent and kind of the quote-unquote Lancer role of Paris, including the cosmetic and mask stuff that role also requires. Master of disguise and whatnot. Lynda is in all the season 6 episodes. As you probably know, she became pregnant between seasons, so was only in 12 out of the 22 episodes in season 7. Many of those were very light duty, where she's only shown as being seated or whatever, and not really active in the mission. Or she becomes a mask and just is in a few scenes and then, is played by a different actress basically for the rest of the episode. Like Lesley Warren and other female agents that I've discussed, she's always part of the mission. But in many cases, she's also just a placeholder or one of the team. And there's also a pattern, especially, I think it's more pronounced with Lynda Day-George, that in a lot of episodes, she has a role as part of the team, sometimes a pretty prominent role to get things started, but sort of disappears towards the end. Because, once the trap is set, so to speak, then it's kind of up to the men to apprehend the bad guys. And that just kind of seems how it goes in a lot of episodes. I have tried to find Ms. George, hoping to do so using the same methods I used to find Peter Lupus, but no luck so far. She hasn't been on TV or in a movie since 1989 when she came back for the revival, so clearly she doesn't want to be found and values her privacy, and I respect that. I'll keep trying under the radar because you never know. So I've come up with a list of episodes where Lynda Day George gets to be a little bit more than just an above average placeholder or just part of the team, or where she just kind of disappears halfway through the episode. So starting with number 10, Season 7, Episode 14, Incarnate. This is an okay outing for her, and it's an interesting one because this is an episode which features a female antagonist in Kim Hunter as Hannah O'Connell. And usually when that happens, the female agent kind of takes a back seat in terms of her role in the episode so as to make the guest star, have more of the spotlight. Here, that kind of doesn't happen. Casey is an important part of this episode, and it doesn't really take away from Kim Hunter's role at all. A lot of the stuff that she does is kind of, the usual thing for a mission, but she's got more screen time than usual, I feel, and that's why I think I'm going to put this one at number 10. Number 9, Season 6, Episode 14, The Connection. Again, a decent outing for Lynda. Very similar role to Incarnate here, where she basically kind of has to play the hostess for a house. It could actually be the same house. It's kind of hard to tell. Probably not, though. And again, same kind of vibe here. She doesn't do anything too spectacular, but she's there a lot, and she fills the important role that is required for the female agent in this one. Number 8, Season 6, Episode 19, Bag Woman. Same story. Casey gets to do more than usual here as the title role of the Bag Woman, where everything kind of goes wrong for the IMF in this episode, and Casey is put at risk, even though she kind of doesn't know it. And so the other members of the team kind of have to scramble in order to protect her and at the same time complete the mission. This one's kind of the opposite of the role that Lynda Day George's Casey normally gets, because in this one, the beginning is kind of quiet for her, and then towards the end, she kind of gets to shine. So that's why this one is here. Number 7, Season 6, Episode 6, The Miracle. This is a really decent role for her. She's in the forefront a lot more than usual. And in this one, she gets to play off a quality actor in Joe Don Baker as a love interest for him, and also kind of driving the plot in the direction that they need to drive it so as to complete the mission. And a great role for her here. There's so much untapped potential in this episode, as I pointed out. Go back and read my full review for it. Such quality actors, a decent plot where a lot of things could have made sense, and boy, I just feel that so much was wasted here. Number 6, Season 7, Episode 17, The Fountain. Again, stop me if you've heard this before, but this is usually how it goes in these episodes. Casey is the person driving the con once they get their target to the point that they need to get him, usually him, sometimes her too. And this is another one very much like Bag Woman, where Casey doesn't do a whole lot towards the beginning, but once the plot gets going and once they're at that critical point, then she kind of takes it and runs with it. Too bad this is the worst episode of the original series, but it's certainly not Lynda's fault. Number 5, Season 6, Episode 13, Run for the Money. She's featured in this one again. In this one, she's present throughout the episode as a character who pushes buttons for the marks Mason and Trask to kind of set them against each other and misdirect them a little bit, and again, push them in the direction they need to be pushed. But they are both complete schmucks, as it is, and there wasn't a whole lot of effort there. Too bad her great performance was wasted in this one. Number 4, Season 6, Episode 11, The Visitors. I really feel like I'm sounding like a broken record here. Same deal here. She starts out not doing a whole lot, but then at the key point comes right in and takes the action to where it needs to go. This time she's got a great actor in Steve Forrest as a foil. Too bad, again, he is a complete schmuck. She has a really good look, and obviously that's some of it is her, a lot of it is her, but also makeup and hair certainly helps. She has a perfect look for her alien persona in this one, and I think she's great here. Number 3, season 6, episode 18, Committed. When she's on the screen, she is excellent. She starts out having sequences as Jim's crazed niece in order to get into a mental hospital and in the key place that she has to get. Unfortunately, towards the end of the episode and the middle of it, Casey is played by Susan Howard. And Susan Howard does a great job in the role. I think she's fantastic here. But not the greatest outing for Lynda Day George overall. But when she's there, in the key scenes where she is there, oh my gosh, she is really, really entertaining. And that's why this one's at number 3. Number 2, season 6, episode 15, The Bride. In this one, Casey is the bride. She's front and center. She's a key character in the mission. She gets to do a whole bunch of different tasks and play multiple characters. She makes a wax dummy of herself, which is a key part in the episode. She gets to play a drug addict, and then kind of just an innocent ingenue who has arrived in America. That sort of thing. Really kind of old school vibe in the way this episode kind of plays out and her role in it. Before I mention number 1, I want to make a couple of special mentions because people are going to be saying, oh, come on, how could you not have mentioned something about that? Well, one thing that I want to give a special mention to is season 6, episode 12, Nerves. This is obviously a special episode when we're talking about Lynda Day George because she appears here with her husband, Chris George. And she's involved in a love triangle between, her character, Casey, his character, and also Tyne Daly, who plays his girlfriend. The thing about that is, while she's excellent here, for obvious reasons, she's got good on-screen chemistry with the actors that she plays with. Obviously, she does. She's married to him. The problem with this here is that she disappears halfway through the episode, and it's very noticeable. There's a point where she appears kind of in the background, and then she's just completely lost. And that's a really good example of what I was talking about before, where she completely disappears. You see it in other episodes, such as, for example, The Pendulum late in the season, late in season 7, Trapped in season 6, whole bunch of those. And also, like I said, there's several episodes where she's just a mask for most of the episode. Encounter, where for most of the episode, Casey is played by Elizabeth Ashley. Or Boomerang, where she's present, but she doesn't have too much of a role so as not to overshadow Lorraine Stevens. The other one that I want to give a special mention to, I thought about including it on this list, and maybe it does deserve to be there, but I want to put it in kind of a special place, is from the revival, season 1, episode 17, Reprisal, where Lynda Day George comes back to reprise her role. She has to be Lisa Casey because of the whole thing where there was another female agent, Casey Randall. But I think that she is absolutely outstanding in that episode. I've mentioned, and you can see the full review over here actually, where she has a scene playing against the episode's antagonist, Russell Acker. And it's just such a badass moment where she stares him down, calls him a coward. All of, that is just so fantastic. I love that scene, and I think she did a fantastic job. Plot issues notwithstanding, her performance in that one was excellent and definitely deserves a special mention. But the best episode, I feel, for Lynda Day George was season 7, episode 11, kidnap. This is the one where she kind of came back from her maternity leave and gets a chance to shine, as do Willie and Barney in this one, just because of the nature of the plot, because Jim is the one that's in trouble here. And in this outstanding episode, she totally takes the bull by the horns, as do the other two. Her sequences in this one, during an elevator ride, as well as in a bank vault, are excellent. It's like she didn't miss a beat during her time away from the show. This episode is great to watch for all sorts of reasons, but Lynda Day George is definitely one of those reasons. And I think that just about wraps it up. So that's my discussion about Lesley and Lynda. I'll move on to finish off the reviews for the final 2 episodes of the revival, and then we'll get a video together about the best of Jane Badler and the best of Barbara Bain. And I think I'm probably going to separate the 2. I'll see how it goes. Yeah, I think I definitely will separate the 2. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Please like this review video. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, so that you get notifications when new videos come out. And please leave your comments. The subscribes and likes are always appreciated, and they definitely help the channel. So I would very much appreciate it if you do both of those. Thank you again, and I will see you next time.